Thanks to the 1000-Year Blood War anime, Squad Zero has finally received many more feats and a better display of their power, including an additional Bankai release from Senjumaru and extended screen time for the other members of Squad Zero. With this new information, it's time to revisit an old question. What if Transcendent Aizen made it to Royal Palace? Could he defeat the Zero Squad and kill the Soul King? Squad Zero is the most powerful force in the Soul Society. It consists of 5 members and their combined strength surpasses the Gotei 13. It consists of Senjumaru, Tenjiro, Oetsu, and Ikifune, all led by Ichibei Hyosube. Their purpose is to guard the Soul King's remains, given that if the Soul King is ever removed or killed, the entire world could collapse. On the other hand, Aizen's goal is the antithesis to this. He aims to destroy the Soul King, shatter the world, and remake it in his own image. However, his plans were foiled by Ichigo Kurosaki, Kisuke Urahara, and his own unstable heart. But in this scenario, he'll be facing Squad Zero directly in his transcendent form. And given that this is a versus battle, the desire to lose will be non-existent. I'll cover the different categories of combat, including speed, power, abilities, and so on, as I go back and forth between Zero Squad and Aizen Sosuke. By doing this, I think you'll have a better idea as to how they match up as a unit. That is, when compared to Aizen's butterfly and monster forms. Zero Bantai has 2 main levels of power output: the strength of the 4 younger captains who can shake entire realms with the slightest use of their true swords. But how does one justify this level of power? Well, thanks to many sources, it is very much verifiable. And the second layer of power comes from Ichibei himself, who manipulates black. To understand the strength of the 4 younger captains, let's first analyze a statement. When referring to the individual release of their true swords, Senjumaru said the slightest use would cause the heaven and earth of the 3 realms to shake. The phrase slightest use of our power can also be substituted with a flick of our sleeves. Tenchi refers to heaven and earth, or the universe, and Senjumaru's feat also helps to justify this interpretation. The shaking could first be felt by Ichigo and the others who were on their way to Royal Palace. Then it could be felt in the Serete, which is beneath that, and then in the living world. Therefore, her force traveled from one realm to the other. There's also a direct explanation which tells us that her Bankai shock traveled from one realm to the other. So the shaking effect did in fact travel. This gives us the shaking of the matter within multiple dimensions. The Soul Society's Earth can be seen surrounded by multiple stars, and the living world's Earth is surrounded by constellations of stars, and galaxies even far off into the distance. With science and satellites similar to real life, human beings even think the realm of the living is a universe to itself. These worlds hold separate spacetimes, which are all contained in their own boundary of spacetime. Therefore, her Bankai didn't simply affect matter, but it also affected spacetime, as it has to penetrate the spacetime barriers of each realm to reach their Earths, and traverse the gap between worlds which are disconnected. And this level of power can be achieved by each of the individual Squad Zero members. That is when Kiryu, Senjumaru, Tenjiro, and Oetsu release their true swords individually. And this shock of dimensions is merely the presence of their Bankai, and the presence which a Bankai radiates is nothing compared to the actual power of the Bankai once it's put to use. When spiritual powers are intentionally focused into abilities, there are some Bankai techniques which simply multiply your attack power over thousands of times. And then we move on to the monk Ichibei Hyosube, who would also scale to this and even higher, where his source of power is black itself. When he releases Ichimonji, all of the black in the collective world or universe of Bleach belongs to him. And since Ichibei is a primordial who comes from the ancient times when all the realms were mixed together, when even the infinite Garganta was a part of the collective world, and he had his innate powers since that time, he likely has an infinite source of blackness. When it comes to the trader Aizen Sosuke, his powers are also quite straightforward, despite that there are still many misconceptions regarding his transcendent states. First of all, he's not mountain level. He's merely saying that he never used to affect the environment to this extent with his physical power, that is, in Shinigami form. Furthermore, Shinigami battles aim to concentrate your power for maximum effectiveness anyway, and this was merely the after effects of Ichigo's physical clash with Aizen, when his shockwave strayed and hit a specific mountain. Secondly, Gin was only able to affect Aizen because he was lowering himself so he could have fun with Ichigo's friends. When he faced Ichigo, he explained that he was intentionally lowering himself. So then, how strong was Transcendent Aizen? Aizen's first notable feat before fully transcending was his destruction of the Cleaner. It is such an absolute existence that Soul Society has no way to deal with it. Even more astounding is the fact that Soul Society has the means to build weapons beings which can blow away entire dimensions. A dimension like the Kyogoku, which Kisuke explained, like Soul Society, is a realm of Reishi, which contained the planet and the space made of Reishi. Secondly, the Cleaner is described as a creature of reason, with the means to negate the spiritual powers of Shinigami and Hollows. And since Aizen was also beyond the Cleaner, he would scale beyond Shinigami and Hollow spirit energies. Furthermore, since the Cleaner was a creature of reason, or law, which governs the way reality works, its destruction was proof that Aizen was headed towards the end of all reason. To support this, we have two official statements, the first confirming that Aizen did in fact surpass the laws which governed the Cleaner, and the second was a confirmation of Aizen's own statement saying that he was indeed headed towards the end of all reason. His next transformation, the fourth fusion or butterfly form, was a form in which he fully transcended Hollow and Shinigami. Beyond Aizen's own words, there are multiple statements which are official, which stated that Aizen did in fact transcend Hollow and Shinigami. And his final form, the monster form or fifth fusion, was confirmed to be a being who surpassed the form of God. With all that, were the butterfly and monster forms stronger than Squad Zero? One could very well argue that Genryusai Yamamoto, in terms of his Bankai power, was on par with Squad Zero, since Kenpachi Kuriyashiki, at least in terms of his Bankai power output, should also rival Squad Zero, with Genryusai's power being unsurpassed even by that Kuriyashiki, with transcendent Aizen attaining heavenly heights far beyond Genryusai. Note that there is no official confirmation that people like Unohana knew the exact strength of Kuriyashiki's Bankai, beyond its ability to summon a massive jaw which consumes everything. And if you argue that Genryusai Yamamoto didn't shake the realms, it's also notable that Genryusai's Ryatsu and spiritual power was mostly concentrated inside the sword, and Kubo's addition to the Squad Zero fight is merely him fleshing out their true strengths, since his goal is to give us a more thorough representation of the 1000-year Blood War. Even if for argument's sake we discarded Genryusai's scaling to Squad Zero, based on his battle with Royd Lloyd, who had 70 to 80% of Yuha's stats, Genryusai's own combat speed would still be relevant to that of Squad Zero, given that it would still make up a significant portion of Yuha's own speed, which could rival Ichibe's. And Aizen, having faced and witnessed Genryusai's own speed, transcended those boundaries by such enormous gaps that he used the term dimensions to represent them. Logically, he'd be significantly faster than any of the Zero Squad members. Even the speed of the Shutsafel members who could take on Zero Squad, after evolving later on in the arc, could still be rivaled by other Shinigami, characters whose stats are limited by the boundaries of Shinigami, which Aizen had already transcended. And the power boost which Squad Zero receives when they release their seals should apply to their true swords as stated. Therefore, Butterfly and Monster Aizen would be significantly faster than Zero Squad. And as it was confirmed that Hogyuku was simply obeying Aizen's orders, and all of his abilities evolved with him, the gap in power would be similar to an entire dimensional plane as he wished. It was also confirmed in the 1000-year Blood War arc and the Khan for Your Own World, by Ichibe's own words and by the Irazusando, that one becomes sulking by transcending Shinigami, a state of existence which was already achieved by Butterfly Aizen. The state of sulking was also described as a state of God which Aizen achieved, which is the highest power and existence in the Bleachverse beyond Squad Zero. All sulking level beings are not equal, but the domain of sulking is the domain of God, which is the highest in the verse. So the case for Aizen being superior is very strong. While the full abilities of all of Squad Zero were never fully displayed, we were exposed to a Bankai with seemingly boundless possibilities, as Senjimaru's Bankai has an essentially endless supply of cloth, which can be woven into any possibility. Elemental attacks, power absorption, power reflection, dimension manipulation, and so on. However, Aizen would still have the significant speed and power advantage, and the law-breaking recovery abilities afforded by the Hogyoku. Even if Aizen was to somehow be rendered unconscious or sealed, his power is far greater and he has a Hogyoku as a support. Sosuke would have greater speed than Ichibe Hyosube, as even though Yuha is faster than Royd, the difference in capability is not like a whole dimension. Or even if he's multiple times faster at this point, it's not so ridiculous that one needs terms like dimensions to describe it. And the strongest among the Shinigami like Yamamoto, whom Aizen transcended, didn't get any stronger up to 1000-year Blood War. Therefore, Ichibe would be outmatched in terms of stats. And as for his ability to manipulate names and blackness, which is a godlike power, using something fundamental to the universe like black, it's important to recall that Aizen is transcending reason continuously, which is the principle which governs the way reality works, with Aizen and the author describing Aizen's potential as being capable of going beyond all of reason. Aizen's true potential is to step outside of reality itself. Ikomeki Damwe, with its singularity and strong spiritual pressure, could also resist erasure from Ichibe, and fragments of Reio could remove the effects of Ichibe's Shikai and Bankai. And no, this is not some energy-based Kido spell sealing, as it's by means of black itself, which blackens the very soul, which reaches even the inner world of a being, as seen with Ichigo's Quincy spirit, with Aizen evolving into a full-fledged sulking level being, with spirit power and existence beyond all those who exist in the sphere of Shinigami and Hollow. And let's not forget Aizen's own unique abilities like Kyokasuigetsu, which completely controls the nerves of all 5 senses and the spiritual sense. Even the Kyokasuigetsu, which strict Yuha's vision of the future in the last arc, is an evolution thanks to the Hogyoku, which he already has. In fact, based on showings, I would even argue that Monster Aizen is better than last arc Aizen, who was never confirmed to be stronger, especially when you consider that everything last arc Aizen has, Monster Aizen can receive in an instant from the Hogyoku, and he gets a new evolution every time he stubs his toe. Aizen was also recovering from the Mugetsu, which was said to be the strongest attack in the story, at a time when Squad Zero was already introduced and referenced multiple times. With greater power, superior stats, and a reality-bending partner, Aizen wins. Cheers.